All right, YouTube, it's time for a fairly quick New York primary prediction. I know I said I wouldn't even bother making a prediction, but I just want it on here so people know where I stand. It's fairly clear Trump's going to win on the Republican side. It's just a matter of the margin. Does he get all of the delegates because he gets like 60% of the votes? Or does he fall somewhere shy of that? He's going to win anyway, but does he end up with just most of the delegates or an overwhelming proportion? I think I would lean towards the latter. I think the fact that he's so heavily favored to win the state means that a lot of people that were kind of like, yeah, well, whatever, especially in the New York City region, they'll come out and vote for him. I don't think there's really any question in anybody's mind who's going to win on the Republican side. On the Democratic side, I would say Clinton probably has the advantage, but the polling's a lot closer. Sanders has sort of gravitated in and around the single-digit deficit region in New York. We then have a report that something like over 100,000 people, Democrats, had been purged from the voter rolls in Brooklyn, which, of course, is sort of Bernie territory compared with, you might think, some of the other boroughs in Manhattan, or certainly some of the more red parts of New York State. I think it's a little bit suspicious. Probably Clinton had pulled a few strings, let's face it, because she can. But on the Democratic side, it's closer, but advantage Hillary. She'll probably win the state. As far as delegates go, even when Sanders manages to win 60-70% of the vote in a state, she still ends up getting more delegates, so she'll probably just get them all if she wins by so much as a single vote. On the Republican side, you have screwy stuff going on in Missouri right now as well. But as far as the prediction goes, I would say Trump and Clinton. Honestly, Trump by quite a large margin. I wouldn't be surprised if he hits 60. It might be a little bit of a stretch. Certainly, he can get above 50%. Cruz is likely to come in third. If anybody's going to take a few delegates away from Trump here and there, it's more likely to be Kasich, honestly, which is really funny. Ted Cruz is sort of the snake-like fake evangelical. He pretends to be religious. He pretends to be far-right. It's all an act. Even a lot of his fans fucking know that. He's not taken seriously in a state like New York. The red parts of the state are just moderate conservative pockets within an otherwise blue New York City region, which is really most of the population of the state. New York City and its suburbs. Then you've got places like Rochester, Albany, Troy region, and so forth that tend to be more like business conservatives. There aren't many far-right regions within New York State where Ted Cruz can really draw support from. At this point, we can almost measure the so-called anti-Trump vote supposedly coalesced behind Ted Cruz in how many votes he actually gets. What's his share going to be? Whatever that is, it's a pretty good indicator of also what April 26th is going to do. If Trump barely ekes out into the 50% region, if he barely makes it, we would expect maybe he'll have trouble in a place like Pennsylvania. Ted Cruz is really campaigning hard there, Kasich as well, and also Maryland. I think Connecticut and Rhode Island are off the table, but in those two states specifically, they've been trying at least to make some headway. They're hoping to get at least a proportion of the delegates, in other words, especially within Pennsylvania. If Trump, though, ends up at 60%, he's going to get quite a large boost in these other northeastern states. Let's face it, again, Connecticut, Rhode Island, Maryland, Pennsylvania, sort of this northeast region, Delaware, which most people don't even know it exists, let's face it. Honestly, I think Kasich would be more of a threat to Trump as far as gaining a small proportion of delegates here and there, slowing him down, than Cruz will be. Ted Cruz, his platform ultimately works fairly well in the rural states. We saw that it helped him to win Wisconsin. However, if you look at the map, it's conspicuous in that it's all heartland states that he's winning. The only reason Wisconsin went in the direction of Ted Cruz appears to have been that a lot of the local sort of talk radio hosts and so forth did everything within their power to constantly attack Trump 24/7 for weeks leading up to it. It changed just enough minds for Cruz to be able to win there, to sort of put a damper on Trump, and yet he still didn't fall below his floor. He's formed a hardened floor at around a third of the entire Republican Party, below which it's almost unthinkable that he would go. Trump's also way ahead in California right now. He's basically ahead everywhere other than, I think, like Montana or someplace like that. Maybe a place like Oregon or Indiana, he might have some problems. Everywhere else, it's advantage Trump. Going forward, Clinton has the advantage in most of these states. Again, Bernie Sanders has helped narrow the gap between himself and Clinton substantially. They're now basically even as far as national polling. He's won a surprisingly large number of states. He's also evened it out delegate-wise. But let's not kid ourselves into thinking that the advantage is not with Hillary. We have to remember who runs the DNC. We have to remember who Wall Street and the banksters and the elites of the Democrats want to be the nominee, which is also why they're pushing heavily for Cruz. Now, they realize Cruz isn't going to get to the delegate total needed, and that at best it'll go to a second ballot. That's why they're simply trying to crush Trump's support just enough so that he doesn't come away with an absolute total, so that they can try to jerry-rig the system in their favor. Will they be successful? I predict no. I think even at a contested convention, he wins, because there are not enough suicidal people within the RNC whose jobs depend upon picking the right person, upon not having a schism within the party. See, it's not that they like Trump. It's not that they want to back him. It's not that they wouldn't rather prefer Cruz or Kasich or Paul Ryan or somebody like that. It's that some of these individuals, their very livelihood depends on making the right decision there. I think that at least a sizable minority of those people are not willing to attempt to rob somebody who is going to go into the convention with about a 400 or 500 delegate lead, probably at least. That's what I would predict. I think Trump will be over 1,000, probably over 1,100. Ultimately, it's not going to fucking matter if he falls short of 1237. It's just not going to matter. They're not going to take it from him. They're not that stupid. You'd see the biggest party schism since the Republican Party first formed, let's face it, or at least since the Teddy Roosevelt forming the Bull Moose Party and running against what had been his own Republican Party, running against Taft, spending most of the campaign beating up on him and making fat jokes. Now, which is really, Trump is kind of campaigning like a Teddy Roosevelt. Don't think he won't go rogue if he's denied the nomination despite having an overwhelming majority. I don't think that they're going to do that to him. I know a lot of people like to say, people still tell me it's somehow going to be Jeb. I mean, I had one person claiming up and down after Carson had lost state after state, coming like 4th or 5th in every state, Carson's still going to be the nominee. He's not going to be the nominee. I still hear people claiming that Jeb Bush is going to be the one, I can't remember his username. He said, I did some remote viewing, and it was at some secret elite meeting, and they were nominating Jeb Bush behind the curtain. Jeb Bush is not going to be the nominee. They're not that retarded. Yes, of course the game's rigged. Of course they're corrupt. Of course they are. Trump took them unawares. He ran away with it. It's too late to stop him. They know it's too late to stop him. They're going to let him get nominated. They probably will try to support Hillary. They would rather Hillary win the general election. Then they're going to go all out against Trump in the general. Yes, you will see some of the Romneys and so forth funding Hillary Clinton against Donald Trump. You will see that. It's not about party loyalty. It's about their bottom line and about their ties to banks and corporations that don't like necessarily Trump's ideas. Yeah, you're going to see that. That's ultimately not going to matter as much. They haven't had to rig a general election in a very long time because they're so used to rigging just the primaries. I said this over a year ago. I told everybody here, and very few people seem to have listened, there's no need in the United States to rig a general election, which, it would be illegal. You get in big trouble for that. But if you rig a primary, nobody can do anything about it. The parties are corporations. All you have to do is ensure that the right person wins the nomination on both sides, and it doesn't matter which one of those people actually wins the general election. They're both puppets. So you have Obama and Romney, both puppets. It doesn't matter to them who wins. They'll let people have their say. They'll let people say whatever they want for or against either candidate. The difference is Trump is very likely to be the nominee because, again, the money and the party structure itself are not quite the same thing. Yes, a lot of those RNC officials are controlled by the same money interests that don't like Trump. But it's really going to make things difficult for them. If Trump gets denied it, runs independent, and crushes both campaigns, he could win on an independent platform. I think they know this. I think they know that if Bernie Sanders is also mistreated, which, let's face it, he is, he might run an independent campaign. You could see both parties fall in on themselves, and then you end up with so many incumbents swept out potentially as the tide turns that they're no longer in control of jack shit. They would rather let Trump win, fund Hillary Clinton behind the scenes, including RNC individuals. Let Trump win, fund Hillary, get her elected. Of course, they'll be stumping for Hillary. It may or may not work. Ultimately, I don't think it will. I think people give a little bit too much credit for planning to people that they're all old fuckers. They have difficulty with paradigm shifts. They're old wood. It's the old wood on the tree. It's not evolving. It's not dynamic. It's not energetic enough. It's not filled enough with health and growth and nutrients anymore. It has great difficulty with coping with this type of change in a short period of time. Again, another reason the Libertarian Party's polling at double digits. Why do you think that is? People are getting tired. The internet has made it possible for them to see that both parties are basically the same thing. So yeah, Trump, I would expect wins. Like 99.9% chance of that. More like 100% chance. Let's not kid ourselves. Clinton, probably about a 90% chance she wins. Could be wrong. It could be another surprise like Michigan was. Not that it would help Sanders in the long run necessarily, but yeah, I think he's at a slight disadvantage in the state of New York, especially looking at the apparently purged voter rolls in an area you would expect to be heavily in favor of his sort of policies. Again, it's very conspicuous. There is some fiddling going on there. They're talking about it on CNN right now. So yeah, there's my predictions. That's about all. Peace out.